So here we have our finished project. Obviously I have already pre-trimmed. I normally do that before I even start stitching. If you have not trimmed your fabric, I'll show you here on this one here. We're just gonna trim the edges. I normally leave like about 1/2 inch around, so I would just cut around the edge and trim this up, and then I would be at this stage. So once you're at this stage, the first thing that you, or the next thing that you wanna do to make sure that you're ready is make sure that all of your little threads at the back are nicely trimmed, making sure that you don't have anything that once you put it on display, you're gonna see kind of like little pieces of thread. You can kind of see it on the edge here. See how that little bit there? Once you put that on display, people are gonna be able to see that. So I like to go around and just trim everything up and get all of that stuff nice and tucked away so that is not visible from the front. This would be an example of where if you're jumping from here to, from say this red, you want to go over here and stitch here, and you jump from here to here instead of tying off, you're going to end up with a big red line through the back. You might want to snip that and tie off both, or have done it during the stitching process. So I kind of can see nothing's really glaring through. I guess some of these strands here, but the light is really flowing in. But when this is on my wall, it should be okay. You just kind of have to gauge what needs to be trimmed up. Okay, and then we're ready for the next step. So there are some optional parts. You could, if you have an extra piece of fabric at home, it doesn't have to be anything fancy. It could literally just be like a cut up sheet. You could add a second set of fabric here. It's a nice touch. It creates like I said, though, sunlight kind of shines through sometimes, and this fabric is maybe a little opaque, but it would make it like a little denser, and I like that look, but I don't always do that. Okay, I'm gonna use this red thread so that it's easy for you guys to see, and when I tie my knot, I'm gonna leave a little bit of like a tail, just like an inch at most, just so that I have something to grab when I'm trying to cinch it closed. And then you are going to just run all the way around the edge. I like to start at the bottom here, and starting from the inside, so from this side of the fabric, so that your tail ends up being on the inside of where you cinch it. You're just gonna do a running stitch. So the closer together your running stitch is, the sort of, I think, tighter your cinching and your fabric will lay once you pull it inside. If you make them really wide, it's a bit bubblier, so I don't know. I don't do them too close together, but I do it about 1/4 inch, I would say. And a running stitch, if you don't already know, is just like your basting stitch. So in, out, in, out. It creates like a dashed stitch, kind of like a dotted line. And all the way around, and I'll pick you back up when you get to the end. So we're almost coming to the end, and then when you get to the end, you want to have the last stitch come on the inside, so the same place you started. So you're going to take your thread and your tail from your first part, and if you haven't already, just pull the running stitch closed, so it's like a basting stitch that you're going to cinch closed. Kind of like if you've ever sewn on clothing, you'd use the gathering, you would use a running stitch together, and then I just tie it like I would tie a pair of shoes. Nothing super fancy. You can stitch through the fabric too to secure the thread if you want. I don't find there's really any tension put on the back here, so I don't worry too much about just tying your knot, and then I just trim it. I sometimes leave like a little bit in case it came undone for something so that I can tie it, or if I want to go back. You can iron around the edges to make it lay even flatter. I have seen people glue this part down. You can add felt to the back. There's tons of options. I have decided after years of doing this that this simple method is the most easy, effective, and helpful, because what often happens is we close the back of our hoop and we glue something down, and then, oh no, there's something I needed to get back in there for, and you've already glued it. I saw on a group recently, she had thought she'd washed her fabric, and then there was all these watermark lines. It was actually my pattern. It was crazy. And she had glued the edge down already. And so she couldn't get back in to wash the fabric. So she had, I don't know how she fixed it or if she was able to fix it, but once it was glued, she couldn't get the fabric out to wash it again. So she had all these watermarks from where she thought it was dry. And unfortunately, she may or may not have ruined a whole pattern and couldn't get back in because she glued it all down. So I like to keep it like this. It alleviates those kind of issues. And you can put felt in here that's just loose, that stays inside, that isn't like fully attached. Something like here, what I've done is I've put felt in there, and then if I do need to access the back, I can just pull it out. It's not permanently attached. You can tuck like cardboard inside of here. People have done that. There's lots of different options, and I do go through a lot of them on my YouTube channel, but for ease of beginners, you can experiment with other options, but this is the one that I think is the most effective, the simplest, and yeah, creates the least amount of issues where I've heard people complaining about the glue. They've glued and they got glue here, or you know, all the things. I had to cut it out because I needed to get into the backs then. Anyways, that is my recommendation for finishing the back of your hoop. And once you've finished all that stuff, you are done. So you've completed all of these stitches to have your visual guide of all the strands, and then a fun little practice pattern. So I hope you've enjoyed working on this, and I hope you enjoyed your kit. If you have any questions or you have any concerns, please always feel free to reach out to me. Thank you so much.